Welcome back, guys. We're on video 3 of a series that we're calling Ask the Youth Pastor. And I'm just taking on questions that I have been consistently asked as a youth pastor, whether it be in a panel or in a open Q&A or just as, hey, you're my youth pastor, I trust you, can I ask you a question kind of thing. And there's certain questions that all you other youth pastors know what I'm talking about, that we're just consistently asked all the time. We've already talked about cussing Christians. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it like right there. And we talk about what that does to our testimony and that kind of thing. We also have taken on the subject of music. You can see that video right here in this link. And so now the other one in the top 3 was sex and dating and relationships, and I'm breaking that into 2 videos because relationships and dating shouldn't have anything to do with sex. And so I'm going to take on the relationship and dating today, and then I'll do another video on the sex before marriage in the next part of the series. So today we're going to talk about relationships, and this is never a fun topic for teenagers. This is not a discussion that they like to have with me because they don't always like my views on it. And but it is another one of my soapbox topic. This and music will get me going every time. And if you've ever seen me on a panel and there's a relationship or dating question, you know that usually people just hand me the mic because they know I'm going to take it out of their hand, because this is the topic that I love to talk about the most. And it's because relationships are important. And I'm not just talking about dating relationships, just relationships in general. You know, being connected to people is important. But we've got to be very careful about who we connect with and, you know, what we connect ourselves to. And I think that's where we get mixed up in our relationships. So a lot of the concepts that I'm going to discuss today can be applied to friendships too, but I want to talk to you about dating relationships first. I want to take just a few minutes and talk to you about dating and what teenage dating looks like, and when you're ready to date and what that should look like, and that kind of thing. So let's roll on into it. Here we go! So with dating relationships, my quotable hashtag Carmen quote, I guess, the thing that the kids quote me on all the time and have tweeted and put on Facebook and in their Instagram posts over and over and over and over, is dating is for marriage. That is the one thing that I will always say that I believe in more than anything, that I wished I would have followed as a teenager, is dating is designed for marriage. So if you're thinking, hey, I think I'm ready to date somebody, I want to date so-and-so, I think I'd like to take so-and-so out, then the first thing I want to ask you is, are you ready to be married? If your answer to that question was no, then you're not ready to date this person. The reason that we date is to find out if this could be the person that I could spend the rest of my life with. And if not, one of my favorite people that I like to watch on YouTube that does some spoken words and stuff is Jefferson Bethke. And I really love him. I love his spoken words. And so I was watching a video he did the other day on dating and relationships, and he had a quote up there that I liked a whole lot that I'm going to share with you. And he didn't say who originally said this, so I can't tell you where it come from. He said that dating without the intent of marriage is like going to the grocery store with no money. You either leave wanting or you take something that didn't belong to you. And that really, that's exactly what I've said for years, but in a way that makes it so easy to understand. If you're dating without the intent of marriage, then you are going to leave wanting more out of that relationship, or something's going to be taken from you, or you're going to give up something, or you're going to take something from somebody else that wasn't yours to begin with. And so a big rule when you're dating people is thinking, if this isn't going to be my husband or this isn't going to be my wife, is there going to be something that their future husband or wife can look at and say, well, I hate that so-and-so got that before me. I always tell people too, the first thing that you need to do if you say, hey, I think I'm ready to date and I like this person and I think I want to date this person, is take them to church with you. If you bring them into your Sunday morning service and you normally have your hands raised during worship and you're amen in the preacher all the way through, and you can't do any of those things with that person sitting beside you, that is not the person you need to be dating, because they're already affecting your relationship with Christ and you don't even realize it. You should be able to just you know, raise your hands just as high, if not higher, than if they weren't there. Also, you should be able to be open and have conversation with them about God. I know a lot of you have seen like the triangle thing where God is up here, you're here, and the person you like is here. And the point of it is, the closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. And that's the actual visual of what a relationship should look like, a Christian relationship. It should be you going closer to God, which draws you closer to each other. And the first question you should ask is, are these people pulling me away from God? Because it's real easy to, if it's a slow process, to miss the signs of them pulling you away before it's too late for you to turn back. And so, you know, I'm not saying that there's not stories of people who start dating in high school and they're high school sweethearts and they die after being married for 75 years, happy together in the same bed. Like, I know that there are exceptions to every rule. But if you look at statistics, you do not see a lot of people that start dating in high school that come out of high school still in a relationship with those people that continues on to a marriage. It's just not likely, because when you're in high school, you're not ready to be married. And if you're not ready to be married, you're not ready to date. And really, what does relationships and dating look like in high school anyway? Talking on the phone till 3 o'clock in the morning, meeting outside of class, in between classes, going to the movies, those kind of things. But why do we have to put a label of we're boyfriend and girlfriend to do those things? Why can't we just get to know each other and be friends? And that way there's no pressure of we're supposed to kiss by week 2, and, you know, how far is too far? And we're putting so much pressure on ourselves when we're not ready for that kind of commitment. So I know that you're watching this video and you're like, well, I've heard stories about you. I know that you had a boyfriend since you were in the 8th grade, and I know that you were in a 5-year relationship from high school till you I told you I didn't get it right. Okay, I wish I would have took this advice, because there are parts of me that somebody took that I couldn't get back to give my husband when I got married. And so I've got like a little example that I want to show you, and this kind of goes into my sex before marriage thing that'll tie into my next video too. But let's say that we decide that we are ready to start dating somebody, and this piece of paper represents us. Okay, it's flat, it is clean, there's no writing on it, there's nothing wrong with this piece of paper. Okay, and so if this represents us when we start dating somebody, and we go out with so-and-so for 2 weeks and he breaks up with us and we're devastated because, you know, I thought this was the one, and he said he loved me after 2 weeks. That's your first sign, honey. That ain't the one. And so then I get hurt by it or whatever. And so then when we break up, there's just something there. There's a place that wasn't there before, but I can pretty much get this back to where it looked like it did before. But then let's say that I get into a relationship with somebody, and immediately I begin to change who I hang out with. I no longer hang out with the friends that I was hanging out with before, and I break off friendships because this person is just so awesome that they get all of my time, attention, and friendship, and so I don't have time for my friends. I don't do the stuff that my mom asked me to do because I don't want to get off FaceTime with him tonight, and so I'll get in trouble tomorrow, but it's worth it because I really want to spend more time with them. And then I miss Wednesday night Bible study with my youth group because he asked to take me to the movies, and what's one time missed in church, right? Then a month later, we didn't have a conversation about our boundaries, and I went a little bit further than I was really comfortable. But if I love him and I really want to be with him, then this is what I've got to do. And so we keep compromising and making compromises in order to be with this person, okay? And then something happens and they want me to go further than I want to, and I say no, and they break up with me. And again, I'm devastated. But what has happened now is I don't even look like myself anymore. because I got so lost in who they wanted me to be that I forgot who God called me to be. And now I'm a wrinkled, there's some tears in it. I'm just a mess that I feel kind of worthless. Like, you can just throw me to the side because I gave up so much of me that I don't even know who I am anymore. And that's what tends to happen in these high school relationships when we're dating just because everybody else says that's what we're supposed to do, is we lose ourselves and we forget who God has called us to be. And we cut off people first, and then we cut off God. And we put all of our trust and our faith and our love and our hope in this person. Even if they are the most trustworthy person that you know, they're gonna let you down. And so what we do, and when we put all of our trust and stuff on people, we get hurt and our heart gets broken and we get disappointed. We lose ourselves in who they think we should be, what they think we should say, what they think we should believe, who they think we should hang out with. And we forget who we are. And then when that relationship ends, we don't know who we are, what we believe, where we turn to, because the one that we put all our faith in let us down. And so God should be the relationship that we work on first. We should be focused on growing our relationship with Him and becoming closer to Him, and let Him bring in our lives who He wants to be there. And it's also, if you're at the point where you feel like, okay, I think I'm ready to date now, I feel like I could be married in a year if I really wanted to, and I have, this vision of life that God says is good or whatever, and I think I'm ready to date, then you need to sit down with a notebook and you need to write plain boundaries and what you're looking for in your significant other. They have to believe in God. They have to be grounded in church. They have to believe in the Holy Trinity. They have to be involved in church. They have to be in a steady Bible study, whatever your list looks like. And the way you know that you've made a good list is if your friends look at it and say, girl, you too picky. Boy, what are you doing? This is not, like, this person doesn't exist. That's how you know your list is right, because you need to be too picky, because there's only one that God has created for you. There's only one that you have that God made for you, that's your helpmate in life. And so that list needs to list the stuff that you want in that one. And on the next page, you need to list your boundaries. I will not be alone with them in a house with nobody there to supervise. I will not, I know somebody who didn't kiss their husband until their wedding day. That's not how I did it, and I'm not saying that's wrong or how I did it was wrong, but you know what your limitations are. If you think that kissing somebody is going to cause you to go further, then maybe you should say, I'm not going to kiss you till my wedding day. Whatever your boundaries look like, I'm not going to be in a parking lot after such and such time alone with you in a car. I'm not. And then sit down with them when you're ready to date and tell them, this is my list of boundaries. This is where I don't want to go past this point. And you make that clear, because the reason that we give in to things in relationships that we said from the beginning we wouldn't is because we didn't tell them when they got in. They didn't know what they were signing up for. And so if you're dating somebody and you give them this list of boundaries and they're like, yeah, I agree, that's what I want too, and y'all agree on it, and then there's a moment where they are pushing you towards something that you said you didn't want to do, you can remind them, I told you what my boundaries were. But if you don't tell them that, you don't make it plain to them, you don't tell them that you have boundaries, then how can you expect them to know how far is too far for you, or what you're comfortable with and what you're not? So it's very important that you have conversation. And if you don't feel like you're comfortable enough to have this conversation with them, then you're not ready to date them. And so I hope this kind of opens it up for you, where I stand on dating and relationships, and how to keep a biblical perspective, a Christian perspective on having a relationship and dating somebody, because the Bible really doesn't say a whole lot about dating, because back then they said when you grow up you're going to marry so and so, and then you did. You didn't have a whole lot of say so in who you married. And so this dating thing is it started out as courting, and then it become dating, and now we don't even put labels on it anymore. We're like, oh yeah, we're talking, because we don't want to commit to anybody or anything. But that's for a whole nother commitment issue video, I guess. But So we have to go off of wisdom and what God would want for us in this. If the Bible tells us that sex before marriage is a sin, and that we have to have boundaries with people, and that we see that relationships are where this fall happens, then we have to set boundaries for these relationships, and we have to set ourselves up to. We can set ourselves up to succeed, or we can set ourselves up to fail. And if we don't have these clear conversations beforehand, we're just setting ourselves up to fail. And even the most perfect relationship, where it could be somebody that you've known forever and y'all have been friends forever, and you decided to date, and you know he goes to church and you go to church, and but you don't have these conversations, and there's a moment where the flesh rises, then you can't tell them later, you made me uncomfortable, if you didn't make it clear up front what your boundaries were. You can't just assume that people believe the same way you do, and you can't just assume that people have the same boundaries that you do. So I hope that this just encouraged you. I hope it made you stop and think that you don't have to be in a relationship, that you don't have to jump into something just to say you've got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but that you can really work on your relationship with Christ. And as that grows, he will bring the ones into your life that you need for your friends, for your accountability partners, and for the person that you're going to date. He will put them in your life when the time is ready, if you trust him to do that. And like I said, he's created one for you. I tried my best to make relationships work with people. I was in a relationship for over 5 years. I could have, if you would have asked me, I would have told you I was going to marry him, but we weren't living the way we were supposed to be living. We weren't doing the things we were supposed to be doing. But I tried to make that relationship my future because it's all I knew, because I cut everything off. And so I don't want to see that happen to anybody. If this video keeps you from going into a toxic relationship, then it was worth it for me. I have another video I'll be posting later that's my testimony and tells you more about my story, but my whole thing, and when God called me into ministry, I said, God, if you want me to speak, I'm going to speak. If you want me to be transparent, I'm going to be transparent, because if what I say that you give me to say, because if what you give me to say keeps one person from going through what I had to go through, keeps one person out of hell, keeps one person out of abusive relationship, whatever, then it's going to be worth it to me. So I hope this stops and makes you think and realize that dating relationships aren't something you just do to be cool, that there is a connection that's made. I love the movie Fireproof. If you haven't seen it, there's a scene where they take super glue and they glue a plastic salt and pepper shaker together. And the guy goes to pull it apart, and he said, I wouldn't do that, because if you pull it apart, one or both of them are going to be broken. And that's the perfect picture of what a relationship is. We become attached to each other, and when there's stuff, and there's sin, and there's temptation, and there's giving in, and there's pushing our boundaries further than they should, and there's sexual sin and temptation in there, we become attached to each other, and there's a soul tie that when it's broken apart, one or both of us ends up broken and falling to pieces. That's the exact picture of what a relationship is when it's not designed the right way. When God's not in it and we're dating just to date, one or both of us is going to be broken and spilling out at the end of it. And so I hope that this just makes you think, and that next time you think that you're ready to start dating, that you'll think about these things, and you'll sit down with your notebook tonight and list, my husband will be this, my wife will be this, and make your list. Write out your boundaries and be ready whenever you think you're ready to date to share that with them. Be transparent, and that's the only way that it will ever work. I love you guys. I hope this encouraged you. I hope that something I said stuck out and made sense. And I will see you again for the next one. Bye. So today we're going to talk about relationships.